So, the fast dynamic, which belongs to fashion since ever, now swirls with even faster developments in technology, as we can see. So now we can get some highly interesting insights in the area of data-based product development. I'm happy to introduce to you an expert in seamless and circular knitting techniques, co-founder of the studio Eva X Carola. Welcome to Eva de Laat.
Thank you very much.
Nice that you're here. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much. Very excited to talk a bit more about it today.
Yes. Eva, your studio's work is based on the collaboration with the Material Experience Center in Shanghai and its digital platform Materialliance.
Yeah.
So please explain to us what opportunities arise through the use of digital tools such as AI and what you are doing there.
Great, I will. So I will talk a bit in the presentation about it. But for me, why I'm passionate about knitting and 3D knitting and seamless and circular knitting is that I really can build a material that really enhances and gives a different experience to the wearer. And that has great opportunity because I also can do it really from the yarn and the machine up, really building something that really can give extra functional benefits, extra comfort benefits. And for this, obviously, you need data. Initially, this data was gathered by sharing knowledge, and I will talk a bit more about it. But I think with some of the technologies that arise today, we have such a tremendous opportunity to really speed that, really increase that and really bring that forward. So that's where the connection for me comes with the AI and the digitalization aspect and so on.
And you seem very passionate about it.
Yes, I very much like.
That's so nice. I see. Yeah. So for you, it's really not a contradiction, craftsmanship and creativity.
No, absolutely not. I think it's just a different. It's like a teammate. And working, with partners in the supply chain gives you the opportunity to bring textiles that have value, have a circular approach, but also with the software aspect and with the AI and with the digital design tools, I feel it's like a teammate. And how to work along with this teammate really can give you unique advantages and really brings textiles, I think, forward in a tremendous way. Yeah.
Okay.
So. Yeah, shall I
Yes,
start?
the stage is yours.
Great, I'm looking forward. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for the intro. Yeah, so my name is Eva de Laat. I'm based in the Netherlands and China and really focus myself on seamless and circular knitting technologies. In particular, in the area of innovation and R&D. So I also call myself more a maker than a designer or more a developer, and I align with Roger. I think that today the titles are very much blurred. I really believe that everything we wear should be considered smart and functional. And I really also believe what we wear should help us, or where we sit on to help us to enhance and give an experience. So my initial interest in textile has also been very much from a tactile aspect. What does it do with you when wearing it, when sitting on it? What does it do, when using it? And what can it give benefit to myself or to my surroundings? So initial approaches always have been very, very physical. However, along the road, I also learned that to have the true potential, it also means collaborations, and it also means setting up ecosystems and working in the supply chain. And with working with more partners, you automatically also have the need to start bringing in other kind of tools, technical ways of communicating, different kind of design tools, different kind of way of creating a new system. So a lot of projects are with partners, are in collaboration. So I work very much on R&D and innovation of first pieces that bring a certain IP or patents and then basically are transferred into production by brands. So this ranges very much from traditionally very common on circular and seamless technology is activewear or intimates, for example, but more and more also into automotive, into interior, into footwear, into medical, into anything that you can mention, because textiles is all around us. And within that process, and why I'm so interested by seamless and circular technology, I can really build something up from one yarn. And I can really see the grid of the machinery as something where from pixel to pixel, I can decide what data I'm going to program inside of it. And also in each of that stage, I can really decide to make a decision that really helps to benefit the wearer and the user, and how to enhance that further. So, oops. Bit of an introduction first. My space, as I said, are very, very physical oriented from initially the starting base, but collaboration is key. So I have a space basically in Shanghai where my partner, Santoni, who's the circular knitting machinery, and myself work on a lot of projects. I'm expanding a bit of the space, but the space has been really initially designed for that experience. To have a lot of people over to talk about what textiles could be and how it really could be enhanced. So the first area, the first site is very much about that, to feel and touch and experience textiles. Where there's also for me a very important aspect on knowledge. I think we had a very interesting presentation about Roger. What can knowledge do and where can knowledge bring? Because one of the things that I experienced myself, I had this fantastic technology of seamless knitting machine, and I'm only be able to use 60% out of it because of issues with software. So if you look back, and this has been also my experience in the whole process working digitally, and even working with AI today, I have fantastic 3D possibilities, but I have to bring it back to a 2D BMP file, bitmap, in order to get it into the machinery, where the machine actually by itself can do another tremendous amount of possibilities again. So I'm designing for, or creating for the next future material, and I have to bring it back into an 80s version in order to bring it back into kind of a monster that can give me a future textiles again. So how does that work? So I started to collaborate with many different digital partners who have fantastic softwares and systems, and we all the time went via walk-arounds. So nothing was actually, everything was a trick, everything was a combination of, everything was a visually, but nothing was really unique from between the digital and the physical aspects. And I'm talking here about seamless and circular knitting technologies because I think Roger proved there are many, many examples out in cut and sew. Unfortunately, that has not been always the case in the knitting side. So one thing what we learned, we said, okay, there are a lot of ways sometimes how to get it shorter is by knowledge and by knowledge transfer. So one part of that is really in the library, is really in the setup, is a space to start transferring knowledge and to start really having communications. What are the difficulties in creating digital and physical materials and how to overcome that and how can we share that knowledge? And I will come back to that a little bit more later. So there's a huge robotic system as well, which is my physical library, where everybody worldwide actually can have access to, and you can really experiment, and I talk a bit more about this platform later, by saying, okay, what's physically available? And this obviously also has been my starting base a couple of years ago to say, how can I digitize this library? What kind of knowledge is the industry looking for in order to better understand what that physical data means and how I can translate it digitally to also get it uniquely out on the machine. Machinery. So this is basically this is the lab setup. The last part of the lab is machinery. So it's like a playground because I have 4 machines there, but the factory is in the background, so I can really drive machines in and out. And with that knowledge that we were gathering, we also really start to say, okay, how can we really design from a data-driven aspect? How can we bring this digital aspect further so it's not only about fit, form, or visuals? How can we also really come towards, okay, what means compression and how to digitize compression? What means breathability and what kind of data can we put together in order to actually have that digital aspect also, again, showcase breathability from a digital aspect. So this is where we came up that we actually started to need, before even looking into a lot of other tools, with literally a platform or a database to start sharing some of this information, to start yarn suppliers uploading their yarn collections with data sheets, to start knitters uploading their library with all of the knit materials they had, also the best practices and so on. And also from our side to really start bringing materials onto this platform. Because I felt really, if we accelerate with technology, we have to be leveraging this for the good to really build designs that, not more designs, but designs that are better. So we also have that response or that responsibility, being in the industry, to utilize some of this data and to utilize some of the new ways of working in order to create textiles that really enhance and give that experience for the wearer and the user. So with this in mind, before even going into anything that was digitized related, because we were actually running into a lot of issues, we said, okay, we need at least a common platform where we can start to share some of this data, and also to start sharing the issues that we have, the failures that we have, and the possibilities that we can't solve at the moment. How to really reach out to some of our partners and said, okay, I came up till here, but in order to really make it suitable for automotive, I need another partner to coming in that really drives and really helps me a step further. Because our mission is still to really say, how can I build human-centric materials that last? How can I build better informed textiles that give that possibility of bringing value, longevity, and a true circular kind of loop? So really build something from a data-driven aspect. And what we did is we knitted hundreds and hundreds of physical swatches initially and started to lab test them, in particular for common elements on the machinery, like compression or energy return, breathability, and so on. And we kind of start to bring back this data in a pixel-by-pixel format. So I really built a bra that was kind of reversed engineered and really could, every aspect of that bra had a specific value and a specific function. This has been also the start really to say, okay, this co-creation, that's basically where we should bring it forward. So we did loads and loads of interviews with brands and with the supply chain and really try to figure out, okay, what was it in that physical and digital aspect that you're looking for? What was it really that the issues you were having today? And to some of our surprises, it was actually sometimes not necessarily as future forward as I hoped for. It was kind of get a common ground or common tool or common way of communication, or to really have access to the supply chain, or to have basically more understanding. A lot of brands were seeing brilliant designers, but having no knowledge of what was happening in the supply chain, and therefore no possibility to really bring that textile and the direction forward. So we said, before we even build further into the digital world and integrate AI, what can we do at least to have, as I mentioned, bring everything in one location? And this is where we started Materialliance. So Materialliance is a digital platform that's very much based on data-driven materials, yarns, products, processes, and so on. And we're really at the moment working very closely with a lot of partners by bringing in more and more suppliers on the platform and sharing this data. With that, obviously, also we came into very interesting aspects, and that's where AI for us came into the picture. We had all this tons of data, but nobody was able to find actually their data, because there wasn't any journey. There wasn't anything as an interface where we could work with designers or brands in guiding them into the selection. So slowly by slowly, we are building more and more search optimizations inside the platform that really can help you by simply answering certain questions, diving into what materials at the moment for circular and seamless knitting would be the ones that would fit your product, would be the ones that could be a starting base, and what is the data basically behind that. Nevertheless, specifically on seamless and circular technology, I don't know how much experience, it's always about big bulk. And as I mentioned in the start, software is one of the biggest limitations that we have today. So if we want to set ourselves up for the next generation, if we want to set ourselves up for customization, personalization, and a smarter system, we also really have to relook at the whole way how currently today things are developed on the machinery. How are orders collected? For example, it was all with a USB stick. So I would make my design, I would walk over with my USB stick, put in the machine. Okay, maybe a little more automated could be with Wi-Fi, but why not have a cloud-based system where all of us have maybe machinery, I don't know, in a corner of the street and start to really make their own personalized garments in a smart approach, in a smart way. So from that software aspect, a lot needs to be happen in order to come to our vision to have one single stream of activities. One automation where the machinery is basically automated and equipped in every kind of possibility and setup. One simplified surface or interface from a design aspect to design and develop without knowing all of the technical program aspects and sides. And obviously also on the wall making and possibilities and avoiding all the trial side. There's a lot of work basically to do. So as a designer, I mentioned, I love the knitting because there's a lot of possibilities and outcomes, but I was also running a lot into the aspect that for every machine I had to technically fully understand in order to get the potential out of it. And as I mentioned, I think there are a lot of brilliant designers today who do not have this knowledge and maybe don't need to have this knowledge. They just need a very simple interface to communicate with a technical technology. I also mentioned a little bit that the machinery today, with the current software, maybe can only do 60% of its potential. So even after having worked so many years in the machinery, what I do today is not even all of the possibilities. And this is where we started to look into AI as well. So we started working with a company, a Chinese company called Now, and they built a virtual knitting machinery. It's very focused today around material development, so not necessarily product development where you really go into a tube. But what's interesting is the way how they integrate, first of all, the interface, as well, secondly, how they basically integrated AI is that I can get stitches out of there that I would never ever, after all my knowledge in the system, would have developed. That have a completely different aesthetic, have completely different functions, measured functions as well. And that obviously gives a huge amount of possibilities of reimagining what design can be, but also how software, how digitization, how AI can be worked together with you as a teammate. So we're really taking that, wrong one, forward at the moment, where we try to really build towards that end-to-end solution. So really from integrating the library aspects, understanding the user needs, how to basically optimize the search and the recommendations of what kind of materials to use as a base. And then bringing it to the virtual knitting machine, start to experiment on the different kind of knit constructions, visualization, approvals and so on, bringing it directly to the machine and having also the real secureness that what you actually imagine as a design stage digitally also can be knitted out on the machinery in one go. So that's a little bit in short what I'm doing today. And yeah, great question, Claire. I think AI or digital tools, I think they're really to see the potential as a designer and to really say, okay, how can I use it and how can it become my teammates? At the same time, I think it's also moments where you can't stare completely blind on it because there is still a very big apart in some technologies between physical and digital. And then it's also coming back to say, okay, what is the key aspect? Is it really to have that digital flow, or is there other meanings at the moment that can also really help? Like traditionally collaboration, co-creation, sharing knowledge and so on. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Eva. So that was really impressive. Yeah, wow. Does anyone has directly a question to Eva? Then you're welcome to ask it now, because Eva actually cannot stay for the networking reception. She has to leave directly after the conference. So if you want to ask her something, do it now. Or otherwise, I have a lot of questions. But yeah. Well, for me also it's impressive to see that these digital tools and the AI have the potential to enable unique and customized projects. But how is it about the selling price then? because, for example, I'm always thinking that from a consumer's perspective, the benefit of mass production is the low selling price. Like, everybody can afford a suit,
Yeah.
which from a social standpoint is really nice because it's socially inclusive. So what do you think about that?
Great question. So seamless and circular knitting is actually really fast-paced bulk production method. So the price normally is cheap. So what you traditionally saw in the industry is that it's about big bulk. In one style, you run 10,000 pieces, and that's basically where you could do that because of the speed and obviously the volume aspect, keeping the price low. At the same time, I think we have the opportunity to reimagine that system and supply chain. I mentioned a little bit during the presentation, one of the issues is really the way how currently the software is set up and how currently the programs are entered when you go to production. It's literally an email with a Wi-Fi almost that you press and then it starts to run your 10,000 pieces. But why not, and that's something that we recently did as well, why not queuing up your orders in clouds and you can really collect it from all over the world, obviously with some considerations, the same yarn setup, the same machine setup, but basically then something that is piece by piece, something that's customized or something that's in very small volumes can become a bulk production in that aspect and way. So I think it's also really working with the machine and optimizing and really, indeed, I fully believe also in bulk production because we cannot do only small one-piece options. That's not, we need to get dressed. But by reimagining that system and by using the technology that we have available, I think we can still work towards a bulk production and minimizing costs versus obviously and being flexible and personalized versus only working in huge, massive bulk orders.
Wow, interesting. So we can be excited about what's going to come next. And yeah, for me, really what you're doing is like enhancing the legacy of the craft to the forefront of innovation.
Thank you.
So very impressive. I think we have one question here. No?
Yeah.
Over there. Leontine, could you maybe bring a microphone?
Listen, I believe, to hear it.
Yes. And me too.
So if I'm a knitter, how can I benefit from your development database?
Good question. At the moment, we are offering the database free of charge, so basically everybody can access. We are building one of the things that I wanted with the platform was that I don't want to have IT around me all the time if I want to do something. So we really built it in a way that is modular, both on the front end and as well the back ends. So where we are today is that we also started to actually work with some of partners, like for example, Browseware, for example, some other knitters, and they start to create their own sub-platforms on the platform to also start actually using the way in the system how we set up our own database, uploading your materials or uploading your yarns. Some decide publicly, but other ones also use it for more internal reference and use. So that's on one side. From the software side, we are trialing a lot at the moment. So what we really do is kind of setting up case studies with different kind of knitters or yarn suppliers or other digital partners in order to see how we can really scale it up and bring it more into life. And I have a couple of things already running in small scale in China at the moment at some of the knitters. Hope that answers some of your questions.
It obviously does. So, yeah, Eva.
I see.
Another question. Super. Yeah, that's nice. There.
Hi Eva, Troy Nachtigall, Professor of Fashion Technology at Amphi and Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences. So when we're using generative AI to create stitches, we very often have problems. If we look at the Skynet program by Google, they found that 83% of the knits that they were generating couldn't be run on a machine, much less done by hand. So they had huge errors in them. So as those Santoni machines are big and it takes hours to put needles back into them, as I know firsthand, how do we prevent, how do we stay at that manufacturing level with the generative AI, especially in the stitch development, when it's unreliable?
Yeah, good question, because indeed, yeah, you don't want to break all the needles and earn the golden needle. I mean, we have a saying in our studio that the one who breaks most needle gets a golden needle award to the end of the year, but that's not indeed how it should be. So, good question. How we overcome a lot of the issues is by this initial research that we literally almost did physically. So we've been running stitches after stitches and so on, and we really validated that from a lot of different levels, testing bait level, and we categorize them in some sort of categories in order to say, okay, this kind of stitch combination can be running together without breaking the machine. Or obviously the trick is, as a designer, I don't want to be limited. So eventually I want to run everything all together, but at the moment that's not. So while we already have the groups there that can actually combine together, we also can have that as a kind of border or kind of setup in the backend system in order to avoid breakage. At the same time, we are further working and optimizing the software as well, and trying to say, okay, what can we do from a machine aspect, a needle aspect with Grossbecker, in order to actually overcome some of these things. We also have some other challenges that not necessarily, for example, on flatbed, but we have on circular knitting, because our visualization, we have to jump. So it's not a full circle. You make a circle and you obviously jump, because you make, in one time you make 8 courses, for example. So there's also other things that we are still working very closely on. To be very honest, we have a lot of work streams at the same time, and we are betting a lot on different softwares, because at the moment there's not one of them that I can tell you that I feel that is the only solution. I think you hear this back really well for Roger as well, was saying that it's a multiple way of putting softwares together. I hope that helps to answer a bit your question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have another question? Ah, yeah. Leontine is coming. There's the microphone.
So is it also possible to generate different types of compositions and playing around with, for example, recycled materials or design for circularity in this case?
Yeah, wow, good question as well. So a lot of the digitalization tools today, at least from the more, let's say, like browseware, is based on fabric digitalization rather than yarn digitalization. When you come to some of the yarn digitalization, you go to maybe more of the knitwear programs, like Shima, for example, has. But none of them are also then based on the multiple combinations of yarns. So it's like one combination, or like there's a lot of limitations on that. So yes, good question. We try there, but this is really basically with Santoni Italy and the group they're working on. We try to see how we further can improve from the yarn aspect and really visualize from a yarn perspective rather than the fabric aspect, and obviously the combination as such. And then indeed it comes to a lot of other hoops as well, because there's already things existing, but from a designer, for example, I'm not allowing because it looks too plastic for me, or doesn't look close enough. So we have a lot of data on all of this sustainable aspect and the yarns itself and the data sheets and so on. But from a visualization, there's a lot of challenges still. Something will be launched on socks in the next couple of months from Lonati that actually starts to look very interesting, and also from a design aspect can be acceptable. I tried it myself already, a demo, and I was super surprised because I could do in 10 minutes design, program and knitting. So it came out of the machine, and I think that could be very interesting as well. But yeah, good question. There's still huge things to go in there.
Thank you very much, Eva. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I think, that's your applause.